Hey guys, Mr. Cohen here, back with another online lesson. This is on powers and exponents. Please make sure you have your worksheet ready. First, let's talk about what is an exponent. Well, in this case I have 8. 8 is my base. The exponent is that little number that's written on the upper right-hand side that we've come across sometimes in class. That's what's called an exponent, otherwise known as an index or a power. 8 is my base. Now what does that all mean? Okay, here I have 10 times 10 equals 10 to the second power. Notice 10 times 10. Those are my factors. Factors is just numbers that are being multiplied. And in this case, 10 and 10, they're like factors. They're the same number. If you have like factors, they could be written in exponential form. And exponential form is just this right here, 10 to the second power. 10 right here, that's my base. And what the base is, it's the number that is being used as the factor. In other words, it's the number that's being multiplied. My exponent here is 2. And what that tells you is how many times the base is being used as a factor. In other words, how many times are you multiplying that base? 10 times 10, we're multiplying it twice, therefore my exponent is 2. Okay, so here's just 10, plain old 10 by itself. My base is 10. What's my exponent going to be? Well, how many 10s are there? There's only one. It's just 10 by itself. 10 with an exponent of 1. 10 times 10. My like factors are 10. Therefore, 10 is my base. And how many times is 10 being used as a factor? It's being used once, twice. Therefore, my exponent is 2. 10 times 10 times 10. They're like factors. They're all the same number. Therefore, my base is 10. And how many times is it being used as a factor? It's being used once, twice, 3 times. Therefore, my exponent is 3. Here I have 10 times 10 times 10 times 10. Like factor of 10. 1, 2, 3, 4 times it's being used as a factor. Therefore, my exponent is 4. Now, let me show you another example. Here we have, this is called products as powers. Write each product using an exponent. Again, exponent is just that little number in the upper right-hand corner that tells you how many times you're going to multiply the base. Here I have 7 times 7 times 7 times 7. First thing, are they like factors? Are they the same? Yes, they're all 7. Therefore, my base is 7. And how many times is it being used as a factor? Or how many times is it being multiplied? 1, 2, 3, 4. This would be 7 to the 4th. What we've just done is we've written this in exponential form, meaning we used an exponent. Here we have 9. 9 times 9 times 9 times 9 times 9. Like factors? Of course. Therefore, my base is 9. And how many times is 9 being used as a factor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Therefore, my exponent is 5. Okay, let's move on to this one right here. This we're going to write powers as products. We're just going to go the opposite direction here. Write each power as a product of the same factor. Then find its values. Okay, so we have 2 things we have to do here. First, we have to write each power as a product of the same factor, which is, just write it out long, where we had 7 times 7 times 7 times 7. We're going to write it out longer. Then we're going to find its value. Well, what that means is we just have to figure out, once we multiply all the numbers out, what's the answer going to be. Okay, in this case, I have 5 to the second power. Notice how I'm saying that. 5 to the second power. We'll get into class more when we put a 3 and put a 4 as an exponent to the third power, to the fourth power, but we'll talk more about that in class. Here we have 5 to the second power. We want to write it first as the product of the same factor. First off, what factor are we using? Look at the base. The base is 5. So it's 5. And how many times is 5 being used as a factor? Twice. So here we have it once times 5. We have 1, 2. My exponent is 2. We are done with finding it as the product of the same factor. Now we have to look at the value. And in order to find the value, we just need to find the answer. Therefore, what is 5 times 5? Of course, 25. Perfect. Okay, we're done with that one. Here's another example. Here we have 1 5/10 to the third power. First, what we have to do is we have to find it as the product of the same factor. What is my base? My base is 1 5/10. How many times am I using it as a factor? I'm using it 3 times. 1 5/10 times 1 5/10 times 1 5/10. And I'm going to stop right there. The reason is my exponent is 3, and I have 1 5/10 times 1 5/10 times 1 5/10. Please, I beg you, don't make the mistake of just saying 1 5/10 times 3. You're going to get the wrong answer. Exponents, make sure that it's the base multiplied that many times. In this case, it was 1 5/10 to the third power. 1, 2, 3. Now we need to find the value. And I don't have nearly enough room to find the value here, so I'm just going to clear the screen off. And I'm going to do my work here. And again, we're doing 1 5/10 to the third power. So I want to start with 1 5/10 times 1 5/10. And that was 1 5 times 1 5/10 times 1 5/10. Okay, so we know we need to do it 3 times. Once, twice, once, twice. 5 times 5 is 25. 5 carry the 2. 5 times 1 is 5 plus 2 is 7. 1 times 5 is 5. 1 times 1 is 1. Let's add them up. 5. 7 plus 5 is 12. 1 plus 1 is 2. Now, because we're dealing with decimals, we have to go back and count how many decimal places there are. I see 1 decimal place here. I see 1 decimal place here. Therefore, we move the decimal once, twice, and we have 2 25/100ths. But we're not done, because if you remember, it was to the third power, and we still have to multiply it by another 1.5. So I'm just going to bring that right up here, 2.25, and we're going to multiply it by our last 1 5/10 times 1 5/10. 5 times 5 is 25. Carry the 2. 5 times 5 times 2 is 10, plus 2 is 12. Carry the 1. 5 times 2 is 10, plus 1 is 11. 1 times 5 is 5. 1 times 2 is 2. 1 times 2 is 2. Add these. 5 plus nothing is just plain old 5. 5 plus 2 is 7. 1 plus 2 is 3. 1 plus 2 is 3. Again, because we're dealing with multiplication in decimals, we need to go back and count how many decimal spaces there are in our problem. 1, 2, 1, add that, is 3. 1, 2, 3, and my decimal place goes there. Therefore, the value, and I'm going to write it over here so I remember, is 3.375. Perfect. I'm going to erase this and go back to my problem. And my problem was, what is the value of 1 5/10 to the third power? My value is 3.375. Perfect. Now, on the bottom of your worksheet, I gave you 2 sample problems to solve. Please, on your own, try to solve these problems. Any questions, make note of it on your worksheet, and we'll see you in class. Thank you.